Hey guys, happy Friday. Today's video is going to be pretty short, so hopefully that'll be a nice surprise for Friday. Be sure at the end of the video to pay attention because there's going to be a quick announcement about something that's going to be posted on Balloons, and that's going to give you some directions on how to proceed. Next week on Tuesday and Thursday we're going to be doing live classes where you guys get to actually join in. So keep a lookout for that because it's going to tell you what time your classes are going to be at and also the code to get you into Zoom. So today's lesson is in the packet as well. We're going over lines, so rays, segments, parallel, and perpendicular. There's also vertical. We'll talk more about those later. Or the intersecting lines, we'll talk more about those later when we go into the next lesson, which will be angles. So for today, we're just working on those four. And I told you that we're gonna try to make it into a quick game, so I'll kind of show you how I put everything together in our anchor chart and how you can cut those out to make them a matching game. Okay, here's my anchor chart for today. All right, on the left side, we have our vocabulary words. You guys will remember these when we moved into the geometry portion of our lessons. Remember, I had you start writing down vocabulary in your books. So these are just the vocabulary words that we wrote down in the books. So if you want to turn this into a matching game, just take a blank sheet of paper. You're going to evenly divide it into columns and rows, 3 by 4. So on the left side, we put our vocabulary words, in the middle, the definition, and on the right side, what it would look like in a problem. All right, so as we remember, a line segment is just a line and it has 2 endpoints. So when you see a symbol like this on a quiz, on a test, on a worksheet, this is telling you you're drawing a line and your endpoints are going to be A and B. With a ray, remember it's still a line, except we only have one endpoint now, and the other side has an arrow because it is continuous. Okay, so a ray, the symbol looks like this, the line with the arrow over your 2 points. So remember, whichever point comes first, that is the side with the endpoint. If you would have put a B here, it wouldn't be right because in our symbol, the B is on the continuous side. So make sure you don't get those confused. All right, so the A is where our endpoint is, the B shows where our continuous side is. Now, when it comes to actual shapes, we're talking, we can always find parallel and perpendicular lines. So parallel, the easiest thing for me, what always helped me remember which ones were parallel, if you look at the 2 L's in the word, you'll notice that they form 2 lines that are not touching. So you can literally find parallel lines in the word parallel. So that can be a little trick to help you remember it. So it's 2 lines that will never touch. So no matter how far they go, even if I turn these lines into rays, they are never going to touch. That's why they are parallel. They'll always run right next to each other, never cross at any point. So what does this look like? Remember, this is the symbol for parallel, 2 lines next to each other. So if we look at the square that I drew here, each corner is a point, so this square is A, B, C, D. If we look, I'm looking at this line right here. This line is line AB. This line is line CD, and I'm saying that they are parallel. So if I were to take a sheet of paper onto each one of these and continue the lines, you can see with the sheet of paper, the sheets of paper aren't touching. They're never going to touch no matter how far they go. That's how I know this is a parallel line. Now looking at this, could we also find 2 different parallel lines? If we already went here, let's look here. Line AC runs parallel to line BD. Okay, so we could have put it either way. Now, the other types of intersecting lines we're going to have are perpendicular. This is where two lines intersect, but remember the most important part, they have to form a right angle. And remember, we can always tell if something is a right angle by taking a sheet of paper, looking at the corner. If we can place the sheet of paper in the corner and we can see our two lines are matching up, that's how we know it is a right angle. So if we look at this triangle right here, I can see that line AB and line BC intersect, meaning that they cross each other, they touch, and they also form a right angle. So when I go to write that out, I have line AB, the symbol for perpendicular, and line BC. Now, if we look up here at the square, we can also see some perpendicular lines as well. Alright, so I did say that this video would be nice and short, so if you guys want to go ahead and make this at home, okay, you can just turn it into a memory game. It'll help you memorize these terms a lot easier, and it makes a little bit of fun. If it takes 5 minutes to create this and then you only play for 10 minutes, well, that's fine. Not only are you learning something, but now that's 15 minutes, maybe 20, where you're not bored. So that's always a good thing. All right, so when we look at the pages in our packet, we're just going to really work on number 3. Nothing too big. Okay, number 3 does have a question, all right, but I just want us practicing labeling and then finding parallel and perpendicular lines on number 3. So that's what we're going to do here. So when we look at this one right here, we label it A, B, C, and D, okay? Can we find some parallel lines? Can we find some perpendicular lines? Well, A and B run across the top, C and D run across the bottom. It doesn't look like they're ever going to touch. So I can say AB is parallel, remember the symbol for parallel, line CD, okay? Can you also find some other parallel lines? I'll let you guys solve that at home. All right, and then if we look here, if you have a sheet of paper, okay, you can always make it smaller. You can take a large sheet of paper and just cut it so we're only using the corner. Because remember, the corner is where what shows us where the right angles are. If I put this here, I can already see that it has 1, 2, 3, 4 right angles in this shape, and I can show that by drawing the symbol for right angles, which we'll get into when we do angles on Monday. Looking at this, I can see that line AC here is perpendicular to line AB. So the two lines, they intersect, they touch, and they formed a right angle. So what I want you to be able to do is look at here and write down how many perpendicular lines you see. All right, let's look at T here, okay? Squares and rectangles, they're usually the easiest because we can easily see that the top and bottom, or the left and right side, are usually parallel, and it's a lot easier to figure out right angles. When we move into a shape like this, that is where this sheet of paper is going to come in really handy, because we can see corners forming everywhere, right? But we don't know for sure if they're right angles. So I'm just going to mark off the corner that we're using. And we're going to take a look at this shape, okay? You have to be able to line it up, and if the line isn't falling along with the paper, it cannot be a right angle. So that one's not a right angle. That one's not a right angle. Still not a right angle. So on this one, it actually looks like we don't have any right angles. That means we cannot have any perpendicular lines here. But can we still have parallel lines? Well, that's where we can use 2 blank sheets of paper. So let's label these first. All right, let's look at line AF and DE. If we line the papers up on it, so we're following it, we can see that our papers will eventually intersect. That means they cannot be parallel. So let's look AB, CD. Line them up again. Okay, again, our papers at the top are intersecting. They are not parallel. So let's look at BC and FE. Okay, from the looks of it, our papers are forming 2 straight lines right across each other, and it does not look at any point that they will cross or intersect each other. So I'm going to say that line FE is parallel to line BC. All right, so let's look at U, label it. Okay, this looks an awful lot like the triangle that I created for the perpendicular on our little anchor chart. Okay, but let's just look at it still. This is where I'm measuring my corners, just so I always remember. All right, so that is not a right angle. Let's see. That is not a right angle, but here I have a right angle. So I can mark that in my shape, and that tells me that line AB is perpendicular to line BC. And looking at this, I don't have any line that's running across from here. I don't have any line that's running across from here. All of my lines here look like they intersect. They touch somewhere. So that tells me I have no parallel lines. All right, finally, let's look at letter V. I'll label it real quick. All right, let's look here. Even just looking at it, we've done pretty well with angles. It's not looking like I'm going to have any right angles. No right angles, okay? So that means I cannot have any perpendicular lines. Could I possibly have parallel lines? Let's look. AD and AB. We'll just look at these two real quick. All right. Right here, I can see that they're crossing right here. That can't be it. Same as down here, DC and BC. They cross right here. Not going to work. All right. So what combinations do I have left? I have CD and I have AB. So if we line these up, if I look at this end and this end, it looks like throughout the entire length of my paper, it is the same length. It never gets closer to each other. It never looks like it's going to intersect at any point. So I would say line DC is parallel to line AB. So if I took a shot and I noticed that those were parallel, then maybe I should look at these two. Same thing, right? If I look at my two papers, it looks like all the way to the back and all the way to the front, it is the same distance. It doesn't look like they're ever going to cross. So I could say line DA is parallel to line CB. So it's just using little tricks like that, just a sheet of paper with a dot in the corner so we can always find a right angle, and then lining up two sheets to measure two lines to see if they're ever going to cross. Okay, little tricks like that makes telling parallel and perpendicular lines apart very easy. All right, so that was it for the lesson. I told you guys we're going to do a quick message at the end. So by this evening, make sure that you are checking your Bloom's accounts. We will be directly messaging you about the schedule for the upcoming week. So our live classes are going to be on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There's going to be 3 of them. You're going to have math, reading, and then science writing. Same teachers, so don't worry about that. The lessons are going to start at 10 a.m. Okay, and they will end at 1 p.m. So it'll be about an hour block for each one. We won't necessarily go the full hour every time. It's going to be 20-30 minutes tops, so you will have little breaks going on in before your next class. We will still be posting YouTube videos throughout the week. The packets that are supposed to be coming from the district, we still have no word on when officially they are sending them out, so we're not certain yet when you will be receiving them. So until then, for math, we still have some lessons inside this packet that we'll continue working on. And then for reading, science and everything, we will post things onto Bloom's that we will be using for these videos. So keep an eye out for that. And then once we get the packets, then we'll be moving into the packet. So please keep an eye out for your Bloom's today, tomorrow, through Monday, so that you guys know what time to tune in. And we'll also be sending the link so you can go ahead and go on to those Bloom's videos. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys have a good weekend.